Already hospital facilities have begun to crack under the strain.
Major cities in all parts of the country, New York, Los Angeles, report plague victims falling dead in the streets, in their homes, at their work.
Conrad Channel, this is a Class 1 emergency. All civilian traffic is barred from streets and highways. Stay in your homes. Stay in your homes. Those found without specific military orders are subject to summary execution. Stay in your homes. Repeat, Conrad Channel, this is a Class 1 emergency. All civilian traffic is barred from streets and highways.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to How I Spent My Pandemic. This is John 7. This is my podcast in which I talk to people about what they did, how they coped, how life changed during this long stretch of isolation, disease, unrest, uncertainty, and lots of time on your hands. Maybe. If you're one of the lucky ones. I know there are people who don't have a lot of time on their hands, who are working remotely and juggling kids in school and all sorts of things like that. Some people, the way their life changed was that they usually lived a life with a lot of travel. Not travel for fun, travel professionally, travel to do their job. And obviously that ended. And I know someone in that position, and I wanted to talk to him about it and about some other things in regard to what he has done during this pandemic. His name is Andy Myers, and he's the beverage director for ThinkFoodGroup, which is the company of Chef Jose Andres. Now, if that name sounds familiar, Jose Andres is the guy who created World Central Kitchen. And World Central Kitchen provides relief via healthy meals to people in disaster areas. And he got a lot of attention when he did that in Puerto Rico, partly because it's just a good thing to do, and partly because it was in contrast to the way Donald Trump handled Puerto Rico. Jose Andres really annoys Donald Trump. Andy lives in Washington, D.C., and as beverage director, his beverage specialty is wine. He's a master sommelier. And I'll confess I've seen him in action, tasting wine that he knew nothing about and guessing completely correctly where it's from, what kind of grapes were used, all that kind of stuff. I've known Andy for about 30 years. When we first met, he was a drummer in the 90s with an indie punk band called My Life in Rain. And among the things he's done along the way was he was a drummer in the post-rock band Tone for about 6 years. So I wanted to talk to Andy, about the travel thing, but also a couple other things. I thought he could talk about how the restaurant industry has been affected. And he could also talk about life at ground zero in Trump world, being in Washington, D.C. So I started out by asking him what was going on when he realized the pandemic wasn't something he could ignore and just go about his job while it happened, and where he was when he came to that realization.
I was in Portland, Oregon, the first week in March. I had just finished teaching I was teaching in Philadelphia with quartermaster sommeliers, and then I flew. That was the first and second level exams. I came home for one day, and then immediately flew to Portland to examine at the third level exam. So I was in Portland. Looking back now, that's terrifying, because we're 10 feet away from Seattle. There were 75 students from around the country and 35 or 40 master sommeliers from around the country as well, all in Portland. And it all started picking up steam during the week that I was out there. So that was really kind of weird because Chelsea was working at a nightclub as a bartender at that point, and she called one day and just said, they've shut every venue down in the city. And that got a little panicky for me because, I'm on the other side of the world as far as the other side of the country, and had no idea, if she was okay. if the city, what lockdown looked like. We didn't know anything at that point. I remember, now I laugh about it because normally if I'm staying in a hotel for a week or so, I have room service, or not room service, the housekeeping come like every third day. I make my own bed. It's not a big deal. But I was taking rolls of toilet paper. There's always like the one on the spool and then the one on the back of the toilet. I'd take the back of the toilet one and put it in my suitcase, and they'd come and they'd get me a new one and make the bed, and I'd take that one and put it in my suitcase. So I had
Well, I
I
hope they don't hear this. You're in big trouble.
I know. I'm going to have to pay them back one day. And yeah, and as well, I called Chelsea and I was like, at least I said, buy like 10 pounds of rice, get whatever toilet paper you get your hands on, buy a big bag of weed, and I'll be home in 4 days. I was like, we'll figure out what's going to happen then. So, so I had a quick panic there of just trying to get home and not knowing what was going on because nobody knew anything. This was like March 10th or 12th or something. So nobody knew what was going on yet. And, as for what I was looking forward to or what I thought the year was going to be, that's March 12th. We were supposed to get married April 19th. So we were just in the final stages of, last details for our wedding. Family had booked travel. We had, everything pretty much under control. And then we were going to leave. Let's see. I was supposed to go to Tokyo after the wedding because we were opening a restaurant there. So I was supposed to go to Tokyo and then come home, and then we were going to go on our honeymoon. And so we were going to fly into Paris, spend a couple days there, and then head down to southern France, cross over the Pyrenees into Spain. And, me being me and doing what I do, I called in, a bunch of favors for some cool restaurant and winery visits and stuff. And so, yeah, we were looking forward to this wonderful beginning to a marriage and a wonderful time together. And then
How long were you going to be there?
Like 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, we were taking a pretty long one. And you know me, and what my life is like. I'd spent the whole previous year, I mean, hell, when we were opening New York, I spent over 100 days in New York last year, and maybe got to come home every 2 weeks or so for a day or two. So we really were looking forward to some time just to us and to go and do something that was special and meant something. And then after honeymoon, I was supposed to come right home and go open a restaurant in Chicago, and then another restaurant in Chicago a few months behind that. And then Dubai was supposed to open somewhere in there as well. So yeah, I pretty much was going to be living on the road for another year, and then everything just stopped. I mean, I haven't been on an airplane since March. I haven't been in a restaurant that I'm not working since March. hmm So yeah, we had a bunch of stuff planned, and just and then inevitably, we try and sneak away and go scuba diving twice a year. I do an event in the Cayman Islands every January, which they just officially canceled last week. So yeah, we had a bunch of stuff we were looking forward to that all just kind of.
Yeah, so this is like the total opposite of what you're used to, being
Yes.
like at home.
Yeah.
Constantly at home, or I guess now you go to work a bit. But
yeah, that started back for real, like the beginning of. That was at the beginning of May. Yeah, the beginning of May, I started working the community kitchens because we shut down every restaurant and just turned them into community kitchens and just gave away food
right.
to anybody who needed it. And then once it got into phase one, we were able to do patio dining, and I jumped in to one of our restaurants, and I've been working. I've been doing office work during the day, and then I go into the restaurants at night and help out there.
So, well, let me go back to the wedding part.
Yeah.
You guys had your plan. What was your first thought about putting it off? Did you have any idea of, well, You must have not had much of an idea because no one had any idea about anything.
No,
But
at first it was like, well, this event is out in the country because it was at a winery out in Virginia, and it was like, well, it's not a huge wedding, and I mean, I think we were flirting with about 100 people, but it's like it's outside, it's out in the country. This whole thing seems to be contained on the West Coast right now. And then it was like, oh, there were a couple of cases in Virginia, and we just had our first case in D.C. And then it was, well, we still, I'm sure we'll still be able to pull off the wedding. And then it was, oh shit, this is starting to get bad. And yeah, I think I don't remember exactly when we pulled the plug, but it was probably about 3 weeks out. So.
and you were gonna just to name drop, you
Yeah.
work for Jose Andres, and Jose was he was going to do something for your wedding. He was going to cook something.
Yes. So we were doing a very Spanish style of festival, and when Jose first saw the menu, and we were being very simple, we were going to have a leg of jamon, some oysters, some queso, a few little Spanish touches, and he saw the menu. He's like, Andy, no, this menu won't do. No, he's like, we have to have a paella. We have to have a giant paella, and we need. Why are you not getting the best Iberico ham? We need 2 legs of Iberico, and we need caviar. We need at least a pound of caviar. And you want paella? Okay, I'm coming. I will cook the paella. So yeah, next thing I know, I've got Jose on deck to come and cook a like 6-foot paella for everybody. Which, it's like and so it's funny because we thought the international crisis would be like Hurricane Jose was going to come in and just absolutely do such a great thing for us and just fire up the giant paella. And that was going to be really special. And Jose's like that. He's such a generous and giving and boisterous, vivacious human. I was like, of course he's going to show up and cook paella. Of course he is. That's just Jose. And it's that thing he can do, for you.
Right.
When he loves you, he feeds you. And I mean literally, like, spoon in the sauce right into your mouth kind of thing. He baby birds you. And yeah, and he ultimately, on the date that on April 19th, he and his wife, I'd cooked a nice dinner, and Chelsea and I were having a nice bottle of wine here at home. And he called us. He and his wife called to tell us they were thinking about us, and to let me know that when everything was better, he would make sure we had a fantastic party, and he would still be there and would still cook paella, and he'd make sure it was real special.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was real sweet. And so instead of the wedding, we actually ended up having a drive-by wedding,
Yeah.
which was hilarious. So our officiant, he and his wife drove down and pulled up in my neighbor's driveway, and we got married out there. It was lovely. Yeah, just we made the best of it, and it actually was really charming and quite lovely. I was really, really happy.
So, how did you do that? Did you just call and make an appointment for them to come? Was that just something they were
Well,
doing?
he was a friend who was going to be the officiant anyway. And we'd always planned a civil service because
Okay.
he's not licensed to marry us in Virginia, which is where the winery was. So we had always planned that he and his wife would sneak down. We'd do a quick civil service, sign the papers, and then we would have the celebration with friends. Yeah. So he just called and he's like, "You can put this off forever, or we can just do this." And I looked at Chelsea and she looked at me and she said, "Let's just do this." And so we did. And it was cute. She made a cake. I did the flowers. My parents sent a big bouquet as well. We had a couple of friends that were able to just walk over, come over and stand on the sidewalk around.
Mhm.
And yeah, and that was that. It was a heck of a day.
It was different, but it was memorable, it seems.
Yes. I can't imagine I'll ever forget it.
And so how'd you spend? You just spent the evening at home, and
Yeah, it's actually. I think this is a pretty funny story. There's a little garden, a little community garden, and when I say little, I mean little. And it's a block over from us and half a block up, and we love it. It's called the French Street Garden, And we've just always found it really charming. And, when we go for walks in the evening, we always like to walk over and see what's doing at the garden there. And, when they shut down all public spaces, they closed the garden and just, it's still, you can still see it through the fence, but it was locked and you couldn't walk in there. And so when our friends left and it was just the two of us, we decided to walk over and at least, look through the gate at the garden because we love it. And, Chelsea's dressed beautifully and I'm wearing a nice suit. And we walk by and there's a group sitting out front of some houses right across from the garden. Maybe 10 people, all in lawn chairs, separated and having some drinks. And somebody just yells across the street at us. They're like, "You two look amazing." And I laughed. I said, "We just got married." And they're like, "No shit, really?" I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." So we chat with them for a second. We said, "Yeah, we've always loved this garden." And we were going to take a little picture in front of the garden, but we knew it was closed. So we just figured we'd do a little selfie thing in front of the gate. And this one dude stands up, and he looks like Jay from Jay and Silent Bob. And he stands up, and he looks at us, and he goes, "You two are beautiful." And I was like, "Okay." And he goes, "By the way, I'm tripping balls right now." And I was like, "Awesome." And he goes, "Hold on, you said you love this garden?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Hold on a minute." And he runs away, runs into his house, runs back out and goes, "I have the fucking key." And he had the key. And he proceeded to unlock the garden gate, open the doors, and let us in. He then took, I would say, two of the best pictures of the whole day for us there. And it was one of those like, of course this just happened, you know? So yeah, so it was just lovely, and then we came back, and I had cooked I made some venison ragu, and we had pasta and drank wine, and we're like, wow, we just got married. Huh. So yeah, that was the thing. It was quite sweet.
So how long after that did you start? Well, because you had mentioned the community kitchens,
Yeah.
and that was kind of your first, I guess, return to work out of
Yes.
anything you did at home. So how long
Yes.
was that after the wedding?
That was right like the first week of May. Yeah, it was the first week of May, and we got married March 29th. So it was a
Okay.
month later. Yeah.
So you had an at-home honeymoon for a while.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you did the kitchens, what did you do there?
So, and the kitchens weren't necessarily cooking like the way our restaurants usually cook. It wasn't our normal menus.
Right.
So at Jaleo D.C., which is, a Spanish concept, it wasn't uncommon that the meal would be like a mixed vegetable ratatouille over rice, or you could have like baked chicken and vegetable over rice, and you got an apple, and you could have a bottle of water, you could have coffee. That was really it.
Hmm.
And like part of what I was doing prior to all that was arranging. Oh, geez, I got uh, I don't even know, a couple 100,000 bottles of water donated
Hmm.
for the to the company, for the restaurants. And then like I have a very strong relationship with La Colombe Coffee. They're wonderful people, and they donated a mess of coffee, like just tons and tons of coffee to us. Both they had like cans of coffee, but then also ground coffee for us. So yeah, so you would just you would take your turn and stand at the window, and people would come up, and and you'd tell them, if you can pay, we'd be happy to accept money, and if you can't, don't worry about it. Here's lunch.
Hmm.
And I would say maybe 10% of people paid.
Okay.
And so yeah, you would bag stuff up. You'd ask them what they wanted. Like, here's what I've got today, and you'd bag it up and send them on their way. And that would go from noon till like 5. And then we quickly shifted into doing bodegas as well, where we were selling pasta and toilet paper and
Hmm.
sanitizer and masks. And so it would shift to like one person would be working the bodega, another group of people would be working the actual food lines. And, the food line at Haleo in D.C., we'd open the door for it at noon, and at 11:45 there'd be 40 or 50 people lined up.
Right.
And these were people wwho really, and it was interesting because in many cases it's like the homeless population that I would see. The neighborhood's called Penn Quarter,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the population that I would see around Penn Quarter and have seen for years. It's, the same folks, and you would see, and it got to where the same people would show up every day, and you'd know like, oh, that's the guy who likes extra sugar and extra cream for his coffee.
Right.
Like you do in any community business, and that felt really good. I really felt as lost as everybody was, it felt nice to be able to do something where you were literally making a difference in someone's day.
Oh, sure. And there was
Uh,
some certainty to
yeah,
at least that part of
and
your life, right?
yeah, yeah, and so we did that, and it was we weren't doing but with my my side of the job, which deals in beverage and predominantly alcoholic beverages. Um, Everything had shut down. We weren't selling any alcohol. We weren't there was no booze. So yeah, with all that uncertainty, it was like, well, at least I can put on a smile and I can give somebody a meal today.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that felt good. Yeah, I liked that.
How long did those kitchens last?
They went from mid-March until mid-June.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a while. And then once we could open up again, we opened up again.
And what's that been like since it's happened?
Uh, at first, everybody was terrified. And on both sides of the table.
Right.
You would see the guests were scared. We were scared. But in the first few weeks, everybody was so grateful and gracious and kind and thoughtful. Um, Even though they were frightened, everybody wanted, and particularly, I'm very fortunate professionally to work with Jose because the goodwill he's engendered through his humanitarian work. Like we're the first place people wanted to come and spend money, because they wanted to give something back to what he's given, and so we were very fortunate in that. And so they were coming out because they wanted to support him, they wanted to support the mission, they wanted to support us, and they were grateful and they were happy and they were sweet and they were lovely. Um, and I'm not saying that that's completely changed, but it's shifted a bit at
Really?
this point. Yeah, I mean, there's a little more where as people have become more comfortable going out, it's gone from oh my God, I'm so grateful you all are here. I'm so grateful to be out again. To I'm sorry, but I didn't want to sit near the window type stuff. You're like, okay, well, it's weird because we're at 50% capacity inside, and we've expanded our patios. Everybody has, out into the streets and into the sidewalks and whatnot. And the minute it rains, you lose 30% of your seating
Yeah.
capacity,
Yeah.
and then people are pissed off. We're back to those days. Well, but I made a reservation. Well, I know you did, but it's pouring down rain, and you made a reservation for outside. So I don't know what to tell you. Well, I want that table inside. Well, see, when we asked you if you wanted to sit inside or outside, you could have said inside, and then I would have had a table inside for you, but you said outside. So I'm so sorry. And I would, in the old days, you could make something happen, but now it's just like, I get you down when I can get you down. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's changed a little bit.
Has any of
Um,
the anti-masker stuff?
We've had very, very little of
Yeah.
it. I've had an occasional guest who's come inside, like to go to the restroom, and I've said, excuse me, could you put your mask on? I've got it right here. Well, great. Then could you please cover your face with it? Is this just a thing now? And somebody actually said that to me. Is this just a thing now? I was like, yeah, it's a thing
It's a
now.
thing now.
This is a thing. Yeah, we're doing this. So, I'm happy to get you a mask if you want. But we haven't had anybody, like, at least not on my shifts. We haven't had anybody freak out like wickedly. Now, an interesting component in DC is that we've had a number of people, or a number of times when we've had rolling protests
Mhm.
that have literally just come up onto the patio and just shut us down for 20 minutes. You
Wow.
know, yeah, bullhorns, yelling at people, and nobody's been confrontational, but they make it very clear, like, hey, we have something to say, and you're going to shut up and listen
Yeah.
while we say it. And from day one, Jose and I loved his approach because our first thought was, what would Jose do? And we went inside and we got bottles of water and we came out and we gave water to all the protesters.
Mm.
And that's our MO now. We keep cases of water, and anytime they roll up on us, we're like, "You look thirsty. Here, have some water. Say your piece. You're welcome. You're welcome to be here. Say what you need to say. Do what you got to do. Great. Have a nice day." And then they roll on.
So what are they protesting?
Mostly those happened during the George Floyd protests.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was mostly just kind of like, hey, privileged people sitting here having a nice dinner, you're going to hear some people's names and you're going to hear what was done to those people, and we're going to interrupt your dinner, so you're going to listen.
Right.
And honestly, I was like, good on you, kids. Absolutely. And if you want to come in and you want to do that and you want to say your piece, do it. And and everybody was very respectful of it. I think we had one couple storm out during one of them. And I was like, oh, okay. Have a nice night. It's a tough world out there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I don't know that that's uniquely DC, but I think that's pretty unique, uniquely city living.
Oh,
to
yeah.
have those moments. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And it hadn't even occurred to me, to be honest, that there might have been some intersection with the restaurants in DC and, say, BLM activity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. We had one brick put through one window, but seriously, like, for the most part, no harm, no foul.
Right.
So whatever. I was upset for friends who own a little tea shop, that they had, the tea shop got broken into and set on fire.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, that was a drag. But the young lady who her mother and her mother's partner have owned this. It's a series of tea shops around DC, and she said to me, I was like, man, that totally sucks that they burned one of your restaurants. That's awful. And she goes, no, what sucks is that they're killing black men at a disproportionate rate. It's a shame that our house got burned.
Mm.
And I was like, all right, that's good on you for having that perspective. So I was real happy.
Yeah,
about that.
yeah.
It's about her perspective, not their shop burning, of course. That sucks. So,
That still sucks.
yeah, that still sucks. So, yeah, so that was the kind of getting back into the world. It was sometime like the second week of June that I started working the floor again, and I'm old and out of shape. That's
Right.
hard work.
Right.
I have much respect for floor restaurant workers. It's hard damn work. And and as well, we were doing it all outside at first, and it was hot as shit in DC this summer.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So it's like 100-degree days, and you're out there in like jeans and a long sleeve, just sweating it. It was gross.
So it's the last part of the year, and stuff has changed since the initial lockdown, but it's still not
Yeah.
what it was before, and uncertainty seems to be the thing. So how do you guys plan for that? I mean, how do you look forward and even begin to know, I don't know, next spring, how you're going to do things and what you'll be doing?
Yeah. So, I mean, let's start with me personally. I have a tremendous amount of faith in Jose and the board of directors that lead our company. That said, I'm terrified because, there's only so much you can do with heaters outside in January.
Yeah.
Um, if we survive the winter, we're going to survive. That's how I look at it. But it's, can we survive the winter? And we're looking all, and I've got to say as well, I think in DC we have a wonderful mayor. We have a government that's been very good about supporting us. And not just support on like, PPP support, but I mean support like, yes, we're going to make sure that the Department of Transportation clears the way for you all to take over, bike lanes to put tables out there. We're going to work with the fire chief and the fire marshals to figure out ways so you can have more heaters than what used to be the allowable amounts. We're going to do everything we can to, I can sell booze to go now, where you could never do that in the past. You can't. You could have a restaurant license, an on-premise license, or an off-premise license. You can never have both. And we don't have a new license. They're just letting us do it at this point. And so we're very fortunate that the city government here has been very supportive of us and enabling us to bake every
Right.
penny possible. But it's still like, shit, man. I don't know, because there are a lot of people who just won't go inside to eat, and I get it. As I said, I haven't been in a restaurant, and we're going to lose a chunk of patio space. And, we're operating right now, our most profitable restaurants, and profit's not even a word, the restaurants doing the best are at roughly, 65% of revenue from last year, which means we're losing money every day we're open. We lose more money if we're closed, but we lose money every day we're open. So it's a question of how long can we do that? And yeah, as you said, it keeps sort of shifting and changing. But I have faith that I don't know a more adaptable group of people than restaurant people. I've spent my whole life, with them and as one of them. And it's just, we always seem to find a way. We always seem to adapt, and we always seem to get it done. And people aren't going to stop being hungry. And people aren't magically, it was real cute in the first 2 months when everybody tried to learn how to bake, and then everybody learned that baking's actually hard. So like, it's not like people are going to stop going out for food, and the model will shift, and carry out has become a much larger part of our business now. And people crave people. Most folks do, I think. And they will find a way to go out. They will find a way to come and support us. We just have to continue to find the ways to be available safely to take care of them. And so I don't know what it looks like, but I know that we'll figure it out. It's going to hurt for a while.
Yeah. But I mean, personally, you're still a newlywed. You got an awesome wife who gets the weed, gets the toilet paper. She knows what to do.
Yes.
Someone to hang out with,
Yes. Yes. So I'm very fortunate. And she's working now too. She's actually working out at the winery where we were supposed to get married. Yeah. So that's kind of fun. So she's out there on the weekends. They have tents set up for individual tasting, parties up to 6 can like book a little tent thing to come and do a tasting. So yeah, and you know what? We're good. We're good. Was there a point somewhere probably around May where she was just like, dude, get the hell out of the house, get out of my hair? Yes, absolutely. But and we're finding our way with it. And this is, being newlyweds in this setting is as new as everything else. Fucking everything is new.
And thank you to Andy Myers for indulging my whim to interview him in my podcast. That's what 30 years of friendship gets you. And remember, be nice to your servers at any restaurant you go to. There's no reason to be a dick, especially not during a pandemic. Music, as always, is provided by the Mighty Atom. and you can go listen to all their work at destroythemightyatom.bandcamp.com. I'm John 7. You can find me online at john7.me. Read a bunch of stuff I wrote, find out what I used to do, and maybe even give to my Patreon. I'll see you next time.